If you are over 70 and you have a flight coming up this year, because what is happening at American airports right now is something that most senior travelers simply do not know about. And not knowing could cost you your seat on the plane. Some already in effect, that are affecting older travelers more than any other group. If that kind of honest, practical information matters to you, it is completely free, it helps me keep doing this work, and it makes sure you never miss something important. Now let us get into what is actually happening, and what every senior traveler needs to know before their next flight. When did you last actually look at your driver's license, not just to show it, but really look at it? Because if you are like millions of Americans over the age of 65, what you see on that card may no longer be enough to get you through airport security. The Real ID Act has been federal law for over 20 years, but for most of that time, enforcement was repeatedly delayed. Those delays are officially over. If your driver's license does not have a small gold or black star printed in the upper corner, it is no longer accepted as valid identification for a domestic flight. Federal data shows that a disproportionately large number of travelers still carrying non-compliant IDs are over the age of 65. Many older Americans have renewed their licenses by mail for years and never had to visit a DMV in person to get the upgrade. Others moved to a new state and assumed their license transferred automatically. It did not. And for some, the idea of gathering the required documents, birth certificates, proof of address, marriage certificates for name changes, feels like too much to deal with. I completely understand that feeling. Without a compliant ID in 2026 is not a small problem, you can talk your way around. If you arrive at a security checkpoint without a real ID or another approved document like a valid passport, you now have the option to pay a $45 fee to go through an alternative identity verification process. That process can involve biometric screening, background checks, and additional questioning. And if the system is unable to verify who you are, you will not board that flight. And it only covers a 10-day window. This is not a rumor or a worst-case scenario. The answer is simple, but it requires action before your trip, not the morning of your flight. If there is no star, go to your state's DMV website and find out what documents you need to upgrade to a real ID. Most states require an additional birth certificate, a social security card or document showing your number, and 2 proofs of your current address. Book your DMV appointment as soon as possible because in many states the wait time is weeks, not days. And if upgrading your license feels like too much right now, if you do not have a passport and getting a real ID is going to take time, now let us talk about something that is quietly expanding at airports all across the country and that many travelers do not fully understand yet. It is called facial comparison technology, and by spring of 2026, it will be active at 65 US airports. You may be offered the option to verify your identity using a camera, rather than showing a physical ID card. The system takes a live photo of your face and compares it to an existing image in a government database, most commonly your passport photo. No card needed, no fumbling through your bag. But here is where it gets complicated for older passengers. If your passport photo is 10 or 15 years old and your appearance has changed, which is perfectly natural and happens to all of us, the system may not recognize you on the first try. That does not mean you will be denied boarding. In a busy terminal, that extra step can feel stressful, confusing, and time-consuming. And for a senior traveler who already finds airports overwhelming, it adds one more layer of uncertainty. TSA has stated clearly that opting out carries no consequence. If you are comfortable with biometric screening and your passport photo is relatively recent, it can actually speed things up for you. But if you have any concern about it, for privacy reasons or practical ones, you have every right to decline. Know that right before you get to the checkpoint, so you are not caught off guard in the moment. Can an airline actually stop me from getting on a plane because of my age or because of a health condition? First, no. An airline cannot deny you boarding based on your age alone. Airlines do have the legal authority to require a medical certificate from a passenger if that person appears to have a condition that raises a reasonable safety concern. Specifically, if a gate agent or crew member observes signs that a passenger may not be able to complete the flight safely without requiring extraordinary medical assistance, they can ask questions. This authority is not new. Their gate agents and cabin crew to recognize visible signs of medical distress. But the reality is that older travelers are statistically more likely to have visible medical devices, to use wheelchairs, to have recently had surgery. When attention is drawn, questions sometimes follow. If you have a medical condition, any condition, that could potentially draw attention at an airport, it does not need to be long or complicated. If you use supplemental oxygen, a CPAP machine, an insulin pump, or a pacemaker, that latter becomes even more important. Keep it in an easily accessible pocket or folder, so you can produce it immediately if anyone asks. A single sheet of paper can prevent what might otherwise become a deeply stressful scene at the gate. Let me also spend a moment on medications and medical devices. TSA does allow liquid medications in amounts that exceed the standard 3.4-ounce limit that applies to regular liquids. But those medications must be declared to the officer at the checkpoint and screened separately. The easiest way to make this process smooth is to keep all medications in their original prescription bottles or packaging. If you can, carry a copy of the prescription or a note from your doctor listing what you are taking and why. This is not legally required, but it removes any ambiguity and prevents the kind of back and forth that slows everyone down. If you use a pacemaker, insulin pump, CPAP machine, or any device that cannot go through a standard scanner, inform the TSA officer before you begin the screening process. You can also contact the TSA Cares program before your travel date by calling them directly. They can meet you at the checkpoint, walk you through the process, and make sure nothing catches you off guard. Using this program is free. It requires a simple phone call a few days before your flight. One more change that is happening right now that many travelers are not paying attention to: carry-on bag enforcement. Gate agents are now measuring bags more frequently, and bags that exceed the posted size limits are being checked on the spot. For senior travelers who rely on having medications, medical supplies, and personal items within reach during the flight, it can be a real problem. If your carry-on is gate-checked, you lose access to everything inside it until you land. Check the specific size limit for your airline on their website, because limits vary between carriers. And anything else you cannot go without for several hours is inside a small personal bag that fits under the seat in front of you. That bag stays with you no matter what. But the changes happening at airports in 2026 are adding time to the screening process in ways that were not there 2 years ago. Which means the experience at your home airport may be completely different from the experience at your destination. At others, you still need to take them out. It is your buffer against the unexpected. Let me bring all of this together for you in a clear, simple checklist of what you should do before your next flight. If there is no star, either visit your DMV to upgrade or make sure you have a valid passport ready. Do not wait until the last minute. Step 2. If you have any medical condition, ask your doctor for a brief fitness to fly letter. Step 3. If you use any medical device or have mobility needs, call TSA Cares before your trip. Check your airline size limits. Arrive earlier than usual. These changes are not designed to stop seniors from flying, are making air travel harder for people who have earned the right to go wherever they please. They are about identity verification, safety screening, but systems, however well-intentioned, create friction when people are not prepared for them. And that friction falls hardest on the people who have the least information. That is why I make these videos. You have everything you need. A few new rules and a little extra preparation should not change that. And they will not, as long as you know what is coming. If you have a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, the best thing we can do for the people